Alright, it's time to kick off another little mini series here on the vlog. This one is going to be all about building a better backstory. Here's the bottom line. These are going to help us bring our characters from a flat piece of paper to life. When we start looking at these elements, this is the things that help us round these characters out, give them breadth, depth, and personality, and help us to bring them to life. That's right, we're going to talk about building a better backstory here on the DnDaily vlog as we move into, I want to do a little mini series here talking about how we can build better backstories. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take a little bit of a look at something you may not even really pay very much attention to, but was introduced into 5e, and I think it's actually one of the finer things that they've done in this newest version of Dungeons & Dragons. And that is talking about the personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. That's right, these four little things are a perfect tool to help us build a better backstory. Now, let's talk about this and why is this even, why am I even bringing this up, and how can we say that that's gonna make us or help us build a better backstory? In my mind, it's quite simple. You see, in our character creation, we're gonna roll our stats, or we might call them ability scores nowadays. We're gonna roll the numbers that stand for our strength, dexterity, and so on, right? And in doing that, we're then going to move forward into choosing our skills. We might also choose our feats and so forth, our weapons and so on, until we get our character complete. However, that's just like, let's call it the framework of the character. It's just an outline. It's just the basic stats. Even if you've put a lot of thought into what skills and what weapons and what feats your character is going to be using, on some level it's still a very basic and flat character. There's no depth to the character yet. There could be, and there might be things brewing and percolating in your mind as to why those numbers are the way they are, why they've developed the skills that they have and such. And what I've found is that when we start looking into these four identity traits, let's call them, or these four aspects of our identity in our characters, the personality traits, ideals, bonds, flaws, now we're starting to get a character, an individual, who has more depth. They're more well-rounded. There's some rhyme and reason to who they are and why they do the things they do. See, when I talked before in other DnDailies about helping you or helping us think about how we can create better backstories, how we can become better role players and so forth, we want to keep asking this question, why, right? I mean, that's ultimately the question we ask. Like, well, why is this person an adventurer? Why do they do the things they do? And I found that these four questions are a great lead-in into understanding and developing, maybe even you might say creating, the why of your character. You know, if your character is a scoundrel, they're a dastardly criminal rogue, well, why did they come to that? You know, what was it from their past that led them to be the person they are now? Because ultimately, these things are going to lead us down the road to figuring out who this person is before we come to the table, or maybe even as we come to the table, we might discover those things. What I found is that let me just say as an example, let's say I come to a table and there is a pre-made character for me to play because either it's a brand new game, the player wants to use specific character classes, whatever it is. But for some reason there is a ready-made character for me to play. I can look at the attributes and stats, I can look at the weapons, I'll have an understanding of what that character's role is going to be, what they're capable of doing, but I still don't know who this character is. The moment I look at those four items, The moment I start looking at that, and maybe if there's a nice background written, that would help too. However, even without having a bio or a background or anything like that, if I just look at those 4 items, I'm gonna start to understand the psychology of this character, the personality of this character. And so I could take almost any character, any character sheet, let's say, as long as it has those 4 items included with everything else, I'm gonna have a pretty good idea of the character and how to play him. That's been my experience. Now, obviously I've played lots of characters from lots of different versions and even from different games, and sure, I can bring that to the table. I still think, even that being said, I still think if you hand me a character and hand me those 4 traits, those 4 characteristics, whatever we're gonna call them, I'm gonna have a really good idea of who this character is. And here's the other cool thing about it. We don't even have to pick those things. We don't have to come up with them off of our own, imagination or out of the blue. We can roll. It can literally be determined for us randomly. Like if we get stuck somehow in this character creation process, the creators of 5e DnD have established these 4 things to give us a boost, to give us that little push in the direction of understanding these characters and what makes them tick, why they do the things they do. And also, here's another trick about it, is how they respond and react to the things that they have to deal with. Those are what these 4 items are going to tell you. It's going to tell you how does your person, how does this character, how do they react to the stuff that they deal with? How do they function in the world is a big part of it. How they react to the things that happen to them is super important, because like let's say one of the things you've picked for your character is they won't leave a friend behind. Well, now in a situation where someone's in dire straits and some of the party is like, hey, we need to retreat, we can come back for them later, your character might say, oh, no, I never leave anyone behind. That's gonna make some really powerful choices, and it'll help you in the moment because you'll already know that that's the kind of character you're playing. So I really encourage you to take a good look at this, and over the next few days, we're going to be looking at each one of these individually. I'm going to sort of dive into what are the personality traits and what make good personality traits, and especially if you want to make your own, if you want to write in your own and not take one of the random ones out of the books. And same thing for the ideas, bonds, flaws. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, these are the things that are going to help bring our characters to life. They will give them some depth, some personality, some, character, and again, bring them to life. So, hey, look forward to these next 4 videos. There's going to be a 5-part mini-series, this being the introduction, plus we're going to look at each one of these a little bit more in depth as we go. Thank you for joining me. Hey, when you have a second, or if you have a second, take a look at this video right here. I hope to see you at a table someday. Keep rolling 20s, and remember, it's your game, play your way.